All right, we got another 10,000 club live stream here. Where today we are talking about being a buyer agent and delivering the most value. How do we deliver the most value? So we were just chatting here before we got started, and Paul made a good point. You know, back in the day, you know, when Zillow wasn't really around. People weren't quite as savvy with the web. We were out there hunting for houses all the time. We're calling realtors, you know, we're pouring through old, you know, like archaic dinosaur systems. Greg will tell you that he used to flip through like a library Rolodex. He'd open up this big box and he'd flip through 2-bedroom homes to try and find a card, that's why they call them listing cards.
What's a Rolodex, Paul? What's a Rolodex?
I don't know. I just use the term because I've heard it before when people say Rolodex, you know.
I'm kidding. Keep going.
So no, they call them listing cards because they were actually physical cards in like a drawer. You'd pull out a card. So call them listing cards. We still call them that today. So anyways, times have changed. The job and the process of what we do as buyers agents, it doesn't look exactly the same as back then. So what is our value now? What do we do now as buyers agents, and how can we maximize that value? So I'm just going to open that up to the group here. And who wants to take a first crack at it?
Well, I just think that it's exactly that. When you meet a new person, sometimes it's somebody you don't know. It could be somebody that you know, but they are already an expert in looking at houses because that's what they do. They look at houses. They think that they know everything. But guess what? And many times when you show up at the house with your client, sometimes they know more about that house and that neighborhood than you do because they have been dying to, you know, live in this neighborhood. So they have become an expert in this neighborhood. So how does a buyer's agent establish them to be the pro beyond knowing everything about that house and that neighborhood? And I think that's the key to the success of the realtor. And I think that Paul alluded to that, and I'm sure Doug could say something to that as well, that at the end of the day, what do we offer? We offer this pathway to closing, right? That's exactly what we're doing. We're providing the pathway that's in line with the buyer's motivation to move. So it all starts with that, the motivation to move, because that's what makes the phone ring, the buyer's motivation to move. So when I think about it, you guys, where does the motivation to move start? I mean, what does the process look like when we know a buyer wants to buy a house?
Well, what's interesting is we know that they actually start that process about 6 months before they called you, Tracy. Yep. But
we'd like to have them to have this piece of paper, which actually allows them to actually buy the house. And sometimes they've already decided this is the house before they've realized, hey, in order to purchase, I need to get in this path, right? I need to have this paper. So connecting with a lender.
A pre-approval letter.
Yep. What does that look like for you, Doug, when you get a client?
And the same thing happens. I was going to say what Paul just said. I mean, many times we find that, you know, and how often do you hear, well, you know, I found the house. My real estate agent didn't even find the house, right?
Yeah.
So where's my value in all this? This process started long before sometimes we even got involved. And again, it's one of those things that people become experts. They look at, you know, Zillow, Realtor.com. I mean, you name it, all these third-party knockoff sites that they feel in their own minds that they're now the expert. Okay, very often they know more about the home, the neighborhood, the school system, all of those things before we do. And again, for me, it's about making sure that, again, bringing my value as to because how often do we have people say, well, Doug, they're asking $350,000 for that house. What do you think? What do you think? Okay. Now that's where my value comes in, right? And again, that's when we need to make sure that we're sharing with them, hey, what do we know about this neighborhood? What do we know about the school system? Things like that. And I think that's where those opening conversations are so important. Anything, Brooks, you got something to add to this? I know you do.
You know, I look at it as that we become just a counselor on the buyers and the process, maybe like an attorney to some sense of the process, the documents, the inspections, the explanation of now how you're going to get it. I think our biggest value today is the strategy to buy the house they want with the multiple offers, and asking the questions of what are you willing to pay? What are you willing to do? Do you have the, the appraisal gap? To me, those are our values here, and using our past sales transactions in the recent world to help coach them to get this house. Because I had an agent that said was gone and asked me to take over her customer, and they were writing offers and offers and offers. And we went to this house and they go, we want it. And then I'm like, so what are you willing to do to get this? Don't talk about the value of the neighborhood and all that. If you want that, you've lost 5 houses right now. And the coaching of that and asking those questions and say, are you willing to pay $10,000 over asking? Because this is what's going to happen. And then we're going to have to go through the home inspection. And then we're going to have to go through this. And then we're going to have to go through the financing. And then we're going to maybe have to go through all the repairs and who's going to do it and who's going to pay for it. So to me, that is our value as an agent. We are professional counselors. I have X amount of years experience. This is what I've learned. And this is what has happened in other transactions. And this is what needs to happen, because we do not find the houses unless, like when we were talking before we opened up this Zoom thing, is that unless you're talking around and you get a lead from somebody within the office, or you're talking to another friend at another office that they have a house. But I think we become complete counselors using our past experience to tell them how to get to the end of the closing. And once we get the buy sell agreed upon, that's when all the work really starts. It seems like it's going to be smooth, and then the closing date needs to change, and oh, my moving truck can't come now, they changed the date on that. And so we're this coordinator of all the other stuff.
Yeah,
we do everything except find the house most of the time.
But back to what Tracy was just saying, it's the motivation, right? How do you dictate motivation, Trace?
Well, you talk to them to find out, what they're thinking about. What's their motivation to purchase? Are they getting married? Are they moving to a new area? Are they having a second child? Have they been living with their parents and have been saving for a number of years? Are they ready to purchase? So, oftentimes, you might get a phone call from someone and yeah, they're motivated to move, but they're not qualified yet to move. And so that's where having these conversations on the front end before you put people in the car or following you to houses, you've got to find out whether or not they're actually ready to buy. And
I think Tracy, I think that's such an interesting, that in and of itself is one of the most important things you could walk away with today, is asking the right qualifying questions.
right.
The number of times, and I'm guilty of this, going and showing someone a home and then they're like, well, we know we're going to be writing at 400,000 on this house. We definitely want to be aggressive. And then you're like, great. So just want to ask about the home that you currently own. Oh yeah, no, we can't afford 2 mortgages at once.
Yeah.
And you're like,
okay.
So we got to get your house sold, but this one's going to sell on Sunday.
Right.
Like this one's gone on Sunday. So we got to get you in the right spot so you can win going forward. Or you get people in here, like you said, who've never even been qualified, have no idea what they can afford. They're just punching in numbers online, just guessing what they can afford. I've wasted a good amount of time in my life in those scenarios.
I think we all
Yeah.
have. I think we all
Yeah.
have. Yep.
Yeah.
And
If I were to meet go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul.
If I were to meet someone new and they call me up and say, hey, I want to go see this house, I will ask them those qualifying questions like, well, have you been pre-approved and stuff like that? And they're like, well, no, but blah, blah, blah. I will go one time and meet them so they meet me face to face and hopefully get a good vibe. I will bring a buyer agency agreement, a purchase agreement, just to have something to give them. And then I'll give this to them and I'll say, here's the thing. You have to go get pre-approved, because other than that, this is a waste of time. It is not fair to the seller to clean their house and leave their house and take the dog and cat and the kid I said, this is something you have to do. And if they don't, then I don't spend a lot of time with that because there's something else they're not telling you. And so for us to help them, and I also tell them once, let's say they get all that, are you prepared when I call you to run to the house? You have to understand, you can't say, well, I'm busy tonight. Can we do it Thursday? You know, kind of explain the intensity of this market today. Now, it's different, obviously, when the market changes.
Right.
But
your job now, Paul, your job now is to make sure that they fully understand the world we're living in today, not the parents' world. You know, when they were buying in 97 or 2002 or 2009, when you came in 20% under asking and you kind of negotiated back to the middle. All right, so Tracy, now we basically touched on making sure you go through and you prep these guys for what they're going to be anticipating, what they're going to be seeing.
Yep.
Are you qualified? Are you prepared to write aggressive offers? You know, do you have the stomach for this? All that kind of stuff. Now what?
Yeah, well, the one thing I was going to touch on really quickly is this really great, is it backwards? It's probably backwards for everybody, but.
No, it's not. It's perfect.
It's not, okay, all right, so
Perfect.
for me, it's backwards, and I don't read backwards well, but anyways, our design team has put together these books based on what we know. And pretty much the group we're talking to today are our NTIs. And so we're going to post this on the classroom page, and you can get it at the dashboard on our website. But this outlines the process from start to finish, like we were just talking about, conversations about, we've laid it all out for you to sit down with a buyer and be able to know, hey, what steps do I have to do? The number one thing says, what is your motivation to move? What's your motivation to move? Identify your wants and needs. Establish a timeline, right? And then discuss the finances. And that's going to take you to working with that lender. And that's going to be the key to the success in the end. And so at the end of the day, it's not just about showing the houses. That's just a piece of it. But I think the main thing is once you've got all those pieces together and you're ready to to hit the road with your buyer, your job is to learn as much about that house as you can, because they know a lot about the neighborhood. But your job is to help establish your value now. What have you learned about the neighborhood? What have you gone and learned about the sales that have happened around this house? And I don't always do a lot of that homework before I walk through that house until I understand the level of commitment that my client might have to this house. Yeah. But if I know, hey, this is their neighborhood, I'm going to show up knowing it. I'm going to make sure I've communicated in advance. I work off a 4-point system: roof, kitchen, windows, and furnaces. And when I'm working with first-time buyers, those are like really important things. I don't want anybody buying a house that has 0 time left in a roof, right? So I want to make sure that I come in knowing something more than they know, because guess what? Those are tools we have in our toolbox, right?
Well, and you're the expert, right? You're the expert. I said there's nothing more impressive than when you show up there that first time with that buyer, if you've done your homework well, and you know everything that's happened in that neighborhood in the last month, 6 months, year. And you could literally say, hey guys, here, let me show you what's sold here in this neighborhood. Oh, by the way, we were involved in that house. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, sold for this. All of a sudden, it's a little different conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man, when you start to reference other homes that have sold, like, oh yeah, I went to that house a few months ago down the street here, and they automatically think, like, they're starting to think like, oh gosh, you are a pro. Like you've been inside all these houses. You sold that one years ago. You sold this one years ago, or whatever. Or maybe you don't have any sales, but get out there and see these things and start talking about these properties. I do the same thing, Tracy, where I show up, especially if I'm working with a buyer for the first time, like I'm going to be showing up. I'm driving the neighborhood usually first. So like I'll get to the showing 20 minutes early. I'll just drive around, because I want to know, is there a FSBO that I'm not aware of? You know, is there something going on in the neighborhood I'm unaware of? Are there for sale signs everywhere? Like, why is everyone moving away from this neighborhood? Because, you know, your clients will ask you that. If your clients drive around, they go, hey, I noticed there were 6 for sale signs in the neighborhood. Is there something wrong with this area?
Yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
Well, if you're in a certain area, there could be PFAS in the water. We don't know. But, you know, you want to be aware of those things, or at least have knowledge of these things when you're having these conversations, because the more that you know and the more that you can have that conversation with your buyer, again, you're going to be strengthening that value that they're looking for from you. But because Doug, I do hear that all the time. I talk to people that didn't work with me that I meet over, met a dad at school the other day. And he's like, yeah, we moved here from California. Our realtor was terrible. And I'm like, oh, okay. Why? I'll tell you what, they weren't super responsive, hardly showed up with any information on the homes when we would go see the houses. We basically found the house we had bought anyways. We sent him the link. He just set up the showing. And so, but if that's what you're going to do as a buyer's agent, just taking orders and opening doors, then that's probably the reaction that you're going to give a lot of people. They're going to go, well, Tracy was loud. I mean, Tracy was nice and all, but I felt like she just was like a taxi driver.
Right. No added value.
Yeah, versus Tracy was giving me information. I always felt like she was on it. If she didn't know the answer to a question, she had it answered the same day. You name it, right? So these are the I guess I can't say enough about do your homework, be a pro, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. I also think too, as much as we can educate our clients, this is the other place you can find value. When you log on to your MLS every day, there's stats there, right? So you should be following the market. You should be, as Greg would say, you should be a student of the market. You should know what's happening. Are sales up? Are they down? Are days on market up? Are they down? How fast are things moving? These are statistics that we have at our fingertips that the public doesn't have. So know your stats, show up and offer value.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll tell you what, we talked about this yesterday a little bit on what your value prop is in the main connect page. And this plays really into that, what is your value prop? And you should be thinking about it from seller's perspective, from a buyer perspective, from past clients perspective. Why would I go work with Doug again?
Yep.
Why would I work with any of you guys again? Because in our industry, guys, I'm going to be really real with you. There's a huge problem with people bouncing from realtor to realtor to realtor because they've not been so pleased with their experience.
Yeah.
That's why you see these new young gun agents going out there and they're having record years, and they're not working with only first-time home buyers. They're working with people who previously worked with a realtor who are no longer working with that realtor anymore. So you need to be thinking about, how can you create that value? What can you do? And that's where I think understanding, all the stuff we've talked about today is wonderful as well. But even if you can reference like the past 5 to 6 to 10 years of real estate growth, market rates, all the things. If you can talk about where interest rates are historically, you talk about where pricing is historically, you understand the recession that took place, because a lot of clients you're going to work with may have bought or sold during the recession. And so they're going to want to make sure that you understand what happened, and it shows knowledge. So I would just say dig in and start to be, like I said, be a pro. But like if you're looking for ways to become a pro, reach out to any one of us, because we can help you and we can guide you in things you should be looking at. Go ahead, Paul.
One of the things that I think that that I've had success with is say like being the pro is say someone's looking for a house, and they're frustrated. I think you got to make suggestions that are out of the box to them that they aren't thinking. I know you've been looking at a house, but would you consider a condo? We're looking at this thing, and you don't have to move. You say you have time to move. Have you thought about building? The lumber prices are coming down. Again, knowing the market and stuff like that, finding maybe a place like that, make suggestions and help them start thinking out of the box, because that's part of the thing. It's like if I go to buy a car and I'm looking at a Ford Fusion and they don't have any, and I'm like, well, what about this SUV that's similar, same gas mileage, around the same price, and give people suggestions. And I think that's part of being a pro too, is kind of trying to help them rethink the process and not just be stuck, because I want to buy a condo on the north side, and how many people buy a house on the south side, right? That buyers are liars. That's what they say. And so I think that's some of the other counseling advice that I think that we should look at is giving them different options. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And
Yep.
It's just, I have gotten sales because of those kind of conversations. It's back to the same thing of every seminar you go to, every trainer, all they say is ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. And you'll get more information. Like you said, why are you picking this neighborhood? Why are you picking this style house? Would you do this? Would you do that? I think that's where our value comes into too.
Yep, and asking better questions, right? Asking
Asking better questions.
right? It's interesting with two things really quick, because I know, sorry to interrupt, Trace, but
Okay.
I was talking about our audience. Our audience right now today is what? People that have been in the business a year, 2 years, kind of just getting started, right?
Mhm.
So back to Paul Carlson when he says, we've got a lot of Pauls on the call this morning, right? Back to Paul Carlson saying, know your numbers. Guys, take advantage of the numbers. When Greg
Yep.
sends you these numbers, be a student of the numbers, take credit, even though maybe you've had 10 sales all year. Take credit for those numbers. Be the expert when people ask you questions. They are just totally intrigued with the information that you provide, because just think about this. 9 out of the 10 real estate agents that you'll talk with, they won't know their numbers. They won't have a clue what's going on. All of a sudden you come with knowledge. Knowledge is power. And when you come with those things, again, people stand up and they say, hey, I really want to work with this guy. This gal knows what she's talking about. And again, those are the things that are going to separate us from everyone else.
Yep.
The other piece, and I know we were talking a little bit about buyer agency, Trace, but the explanation of what a buyer agency is all about. I heard you, Paul Brooks, talk about the fact that you go to the first house, right? Earn a little bit of trust, rapport, confidence, the importance of explaining how this thing works and how I'm going to work for you. I had a situation yesterday and it was interesting. I'm working with a buyer. We go into the house and I explained to them how buyer agency is going to work. And at the end of our time in the house, I said, you know me, I'm kind of a talky guy, right? I talk a lot, but in the house, I'm not going to do a lot of talking.
Right.
At the end of our tour of the house, we're probably going to have that follow-up conversation where? In the driveway, in their car, in my car, something where we can be free to talk about what buyer agency is all about and how I'm representing you guys in this. And so it's really important for me to kind of sit down day one and say to people, this is how we work. And this is the importance of buyer agency. Again, I think that goes a long way in terms of who you are as a professional and as you get started. So I don't know if anybody else has something to say about that, but that's kind of my philosophy as I'm working with buyers, especially first-time home buyers.
Yep.
One of,
Go ahead.
I wanted to transition to one little piece, and that's this. You are a buyer's agent. You belong to a board and an MLS and the National Association of Realtors, but you're part of something bigger than just yourself, than the team you might work on, than the company you might work for. You're part of something called a cooperative, right? It's this place where buyers agents and sellers agents interact with buyers and sellers, right? So we need to remember that when we're showing houses, we could go out one day and show 7 houses. That means 7 times someone left, vacated, cleaned, as Doug said, took the dog and the cat and all the kids and vacated their home. That we owe an amount of gratitude to the person that allowed us the privilege of bringing our buyer through their home. And I took a class a couple of years ago that the guy that was running the class said that feedback is not important. He doesn't do it. And he gave us reasons for not doing it, and some of which I understood, but much of it I didn't. And because he doesn't give feedback, period. So what I want to say to you is, don't give up your client's edge when you get feedback that says, oh my gosh, this is like the today must-have house.
Yep.
That probably is not real helpful for your buyer. That's like, okay, cha-ching, the price just went up, whatever. But always give feedback. Even if it's just, we just got started, my clients didn't love the street, it was out of our price, whatever, give something. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to give anything that gives up your client's edge, but you're gonna get paid eventually. It may not be on house number 1 or house number 10, but you're going to get paid. And this cooperative is the place where we work. And these are our peers, and we need to work together with them and have good, long-lasting relationships.
And I will say, this is something when you're talking about feedback and stuff. The last listing I had 7 showings and not one person left a card. And I would call the lady and tell her the showing and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, well, who showed it? Did they come? You know, and I think with COVID and stuff, we weren't doing that, and, you know, don't touch anything and do all that kind of thing. But my seller was really like wanted to know who and what company. And so when I would call, I would do showing time and then approve it. And then I would tell her that Doug Hale from 5 Star is going to show it. So I think leaving the card too, we have code of ethics of stuff that we need to go by. And I think those things, it's the little things that make a difference, I think. And being in a house, and this is maybe more sales than it is anything. One of the things that has helped me when the market's not this hot is when someone goes through a home and they go, yeah, this is kind of nice, blah, blah, blah. So what's the next one? I will ask them, what don't you like about the house? You said you kind of like it, but what don't you like? You will learn more about what the buyer is looking for and wanting by asking that question than say, what do you think of the house? They'll say, it's nice. What's next? You go to the next house. What about this one? It's nice. What's next? You don't learn anything. So if you say, what don't you like? They might say the master bedroom's too small. Or, you know, they might say something, I don't like the carpet. Well, what if we change the carpet at $5,000? You know what I'm saying? Asking the questions of what don't you like about a place, to me, has helped me help them over those objections in their mind of what they're thinking. So anyways, that's as a side note.
You're the doctor, right? You're the doctor. You're asking those questions. So.
Yep, I think that's great advice. So, all right, in closing here, we got 1 minute. So, Tracy, do you have any send off here? You want to show us that book one more time and send us off, or how do you feel?
Yeah, well, I love the book, especially when I think about NTIs. Okay, this is
Hold
your
on. What's an
product.
NTI, Tracy?
What's an NTI?
A new to industry.
Thank
You are
you.
new to industry or fairly new to industry.
Yeah.
You know, we're not asking you to dream up and remember all these things as something wrote in your brain. We've written it out for you. We've laid it out really nicely for you, and we've given you the process. Okay, know it. Understand the market. Understand what it means to show houses. Walk through lots of houses. Go to open houses. Understand the inspection process. Do some homeworks. Meet with an inspector. Call an inspector. Understand appraising, that's part of the process, right? These are all the parts of the path that lead us to the closing. So meet with title people, meet with mortgage people, become a pro.
31 years, I still use books like that. It makes you look professional.
No question.
Yep. All right, guys, thanks so much for your expertise. And as always, to those watching, reach out to us, take advantage of this team. If you have
Please
any
call.
questions,
Please call.
Call us. Give us a call.
Call
We want to
us.
sit down and want to help you. So,
Absolutely.
all
Absolutely.
right, guys.
Bye, team.
See ya.
My team.